everyone, welcome back from your break. Hope you had a great one. Now the last panel discussion topic is on AI for pragmatic business innovation, balancing automation and risk management. We will be covering the following topics on enhancing digital transformation with AI, implementing ethical frameworks and compliance as dimensions of trusted AI, and managing risks through data protection and AI. I'd like to welcome our panelists and also our moderator. First, our moderator is Andy Chung, the President and Chairman of AI Risk Committee from RIMAS Singapore. Now, Andy has been a cloud business and risk management leader for more than 13 years in large SaaS enterprises environments. He is the president of RIMAS, Risk and Insurance Management Association of Singapore, a non-profit enterprise risk management association in Singapore, also chairing the AI Risk chapter. He lectures at the Singapore University of Social Sciences, teaching hyper-automation, AI ethics, AI and machine learning. And it sits in the Southeast Asia, New Zealand, Australian Committee as a contributor to a UK non-profit organization focusing on audits for AI trust ethics, known as For Humanity. An expert member in AI leaders think tank known as AIII. He supports the startup ecosystem through regular mentoring, judging, and speaking at various universities to startup founders on areas relating to market, team, and technology risk management. He is presently involved in commercial operation and enablement works for an internet unicorn. And next we have Dr. Alia Vodajin, the chairman of Association of International STEAM Education and co-founder of Hope STEAM Education Singapore. She specializes in new disruptive artificial intelligence approaches in education that synergizes human intelligence, AI, and behavioral data analytics. She was involved in a number of R&D projects funded by NRF, MOE, and IDMPO on future learning. Dr. Alia is the co-founder of Hope STEAM Education, a research-led company delivering high-quality AI education and STEAM education through both online platform and offline classrooms. As she has received her PhD degree from School of Computer Engineering, NTU, in Artificial Intelligence in Education. And we also have Dr. James Wong, the founder and managing director of AIII, Artificial Intelligence International Institute. And he is an entrepreneur and a community builder who has incubated, invested, and mentored various technology startups, and he is actively involved in the AI and tech ecosystem in China and ASEAN. And he has more than 30 years of experience in the technology and strategy advisory services for digital transformation in Asia, US, and Europe across multiple industry verticals. He is currently the founder and CEO of Origami that provides strategy, technology, and investment advisory services for venturing towards autonomous enterprise. James founded AIII, a think tank advocating sustainable AI for humanity, and is also an adjunct professor and mentor in residence at SUTD and serves as mentor for NUS, NTU, and Lean Launchpad program. And next, our speaker, Dr. Andy Chung, the Regional Director, Technology Innovation of Prudential Corporation Asia. Dr. Andy Chung is a seasoned senior executive and in broad technologies with over 30 years of experience in a wide range of industries, including finance, insurance, health, transportation, and education. He is widely recognized as a top IT leader and an AI pioneer. Chung has a diverse background, achieving success in academia, industry, consulting, and startup operations with a proven track record of leveraging technology to successfully transform businesses and create value while improving customer experience. AI systems he created have contributed to improving the quality of life and benefiting millions of citizens daily. He is the Global Financial Services Group from Prudential as the Regional Director of Technology Innovation for Asia. Chung provides leadership in the use of AI to improve customers' health, wealth, and transform businesses. Let's put our hands together and welcome our panelists and moderator on screen.
Hi everyone, a very great welcome to you having you at this Hash Innovation Summit. So today with us we have our distinguished guests. We have Dr. Andy from Prudential, and we also have Dr. Vodajin, right, which is from Hope, and also Dr. James, right, who is actually running the AIII, to basically come with us on this AI panel to share a little bit about what is upcoming and what is something that you should be looking out for as a business. So I'd like to pass the mic to our speaker, right, to share a little bit about their background and what keeps them busy. So maybe we can start with Dr. Andy, please.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here. I am Andy Chung, Regional Director for Technology Innovation at Prudential Corp Asia, a leading health and life insurer in this region. At Prudential, we have transformed ourselves from a traditional insurer to a partner in helping our customers stay healthier and wealthier through our digital ecosystem, and of course, using AI and machine learning. My responsibilities also include creating a culture for continuous technology innovation and digital talent development across the organization. Prior to Prudential, I was a computer science professor. My field of expertise is in AI and innovation methodologies. So although I've been working in AI for over 30 years, I've never seen this amount of interest in AI as we are seeing in just the past few years, and how prevalent AI has become. I look forward to sharing and hearing more insights from my fellow panel members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andy. So I'll pass the mic to Dr. Alia to help to introduce a bit about yourself.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here. And my name is Alia Vodajin, and I am the co-founder of Hope STEAM Education. It's a company we deliver AI and robotic courses to young generation as well as the university students. And before that, I have a lot of attempts as an entrepreneur. So from the how to use the digital transformation to change education to using AI to some certain areas. So, and before this one, I am the researcher in NTU, and my research topic is about how to use artificial intelligence in educational software, especially the 3D virtual learning environment, through tracking students' behavior data to analyze their capabilities. So today, I'm so happy to share my thoughts with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alia. So we'll pass the last mic to the speaker, Dr. James, who is from AIII.
Thank you, Andy. From you. Yeah, thank you, Andy. Appreciate the organizer for inviting me to join the panel. I'm James Wong. I'm actually the founder and managing director of Artificial Intelligence International Institute, abbreviated as AIII. We are actually a think tank that actually advocate sustainable AI for humanity. I'd love to share some of my thoughts here. For what I do for a living, I work with many, I have a company that actually provide venture buildings and as a digital transformation with AI for many companies from big corporation to startup. Look forward to share many things with you all today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, James and Alia and Andy. Right. Just for the folks, I'm very honored to be actually moderating this session. So just to introduce a bit quickly about myself, I'm Andy. So I'm president chairman of the AI Risk chapter of RIMAS. So today I'll be hosting all three distinguished guests to very interesting topic around artificial intelligence. So I'll call it AI. And most of us already kind of know that AI has always been around us. So we want to have to hear around what this some of our distinguished guests looks at AI and what has AI changed. So maybe I could pass this question to Andy. What do you think has changed or how it looks like in the past?
Yes, thank you, Andy. AI has been around for a very, very long time. It might be surprising to many, but it's been around for over 70 years now. And it was back then, Alan Turing, the father of modern computing and AI, who first postulated whether a machine can think and came up with the Turing test to test, whether AI is really it's good enough. Since then, there has been, basically 3 or 4 waves of AI, and a couple of AI winters as well. Each wave of AI has been fueled by new discoveries and technologies. In the early days, because of limitations in compute power as well as expressiveness of computing programming languages, we focus mainly on so-called toy problems. These are simplified, scaled-down versions of real problems. Unfortunately, solutions to these toy problems often don't scale up and can't be used in real-world situations. But recent technology innovation over the past decade has made AI much better at solving real-world problems and at scale and pace. For example, we now have big data, the ability to store and process large volumes of real-time data, as well as many more types of data sources, such as data from IoT devices, data from social media, and then of course we have cheap and affordable cloud computing, as well as advanced GPUs and TPUs. We can now do AI work at scale using all available data instead of just a small subset. And because of this affordable data and cloud computing, deep learning has also become viable and popular. Deep learning is really a game changer, I believe, especially after AlphaGo. Just to give you an example of how much data has changed, how much AI has changed, one of my graduate advisors, Professor Donald Mackey, who was a founding father of AI and worked with Alan Turing to build the Enigma machine that was instrumental for the Allies to win World War II. That's a long time ago. But he was my advisor. So when Professor Mackey did his own PhD, he designed probably the world's first AI machine learning computer game algorithm. And his algorithm learned how to play tic-tac-toe. And he built this computing machine using a couple of 100 matchboxes and beads.
Oh.
Yes, you heard that right.
Wow.
Matchboxes. Because computers were scarce back then. So you can create AI using matchboxes and beads. So fast forward to only 60 years, now we have super powerful GPT-3 generative language models. And just last month, Microsoft and NVIDIA announced Megatron Turing with 105 layers and 530 billion parameters. Those algorithms could produce natural language texts that are indistinguishable from those written by humans. So this is amazing, how much AI has grown from matchboxes to 500 billion parameter neural networks in just 2 generations. So that's truly remarkable and amazing.
Wow, indeed a great sharing, Andy. As matchboxes as an AI doesn't really occur to me at present days.
That's a whole different story. I have to share that separately.
Exactly. I know James has been around as well. During the same time as you, when you both are pursuing your studies. So maybe James, how about your view around this question as well?
Well, actually, Andy, we agree what Andy has mentioned. AI has been around a long time. In fact, he mentioned something that very far away. But given our age right now, I think Andy and I probably have gone through it for the last 30 over years in AI with our personal experience going through 2 waves of AI and then going through an AI winter, right? So the experience we have gone through actually helped us a lot in actually helping businesses to think ahead, what are the things we have gone through, right? So I think like what Andy has mentioned, I think having been the first wave of AI in terms of the industrializations in the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of hype, right? So that's why the capital market went quite crazy, right? So also businesses, at least from my personal experience, we have actually deployed many of their AI solutions for very big companies who can afford it. But small businesses can't do that. So I think for this wave of AI, it's very important to have the right mindset tools and methodology to implement and adopt AI for digital transformation in a very pragmatic way. Pragmatic way, then we can talk more a little bit about how to go about doing it, and etc. But one thing for sure, you cannot avoid AI because it's going to affect every industry. You can't avoid it. So you cannot run away from it, but you just need to embrace it and then move forward. If you want to know more about, I think you also need to know a little bit more about the history of AI. So this is an area by which I think Andy and I can spend all day talking, sharing with all of you.
Thank you, James. To businesses in this call, right? History is definitely important because we want to ensure that the next generation of AI is sustainable, right? And that it doesn't go through the two winters that we all have experienced before, right? So with that point, I would like to bring Alia into the question number 2, right? So what are your views, say, on AI, either as an innovation and technology that businesses today can consider? Alia.
Thank you. Yeah. First, I have to say it's amazing to hear the stories from Andy and James. Previously, we heard the history, but you are part of the history and just involved in that. Yeah, so it's very interesting. And from my view, normally, recently, we say that A, B, C, D, something like the buzzwords. For example, the A is artificial, B is a blockchain, C is a cloud, D is the data, and sometimes we always put E, like the edge computing. And you say, what is the difference between edge computing and cloud computing? Edge computing is just we put server near the end user, right? And it's kind of the similar things to cloud computing from my personal view. But besides those buzzwords, what I want to say, the thing we cannot avoid is a digital transformation, right? Like the time bar from the previous history to nowadays, the 2021. When we really talk about the digital transformation, I think it's still very, very important. Why? Because digital transformation is not only an advantage or an edge. I think it's like a whirlpool. It's just very aggressive and drag everybody into that. Why? Take an example. For example, we say from the 1990s, we have the change from the writing to typing, right? We use computer, and this process maybe lasts for 10 years, right? So gradually, the slow process, everybody gradually how to type, how to use computers, that is 10 years. It's a long time, right? How many 10 years we have? But
it is.
Yeah, do you remember like 2 years ago, our minister on the television speech, they said, Singapore will be no money, no cash, right? And from that day, everywhere we began to use a card, we began to use GrabPay, we began to use handphone to pay that. And how long time we change? Roughly within 1 year, right? Each shop have just at least one way to give those no cash paying. Why? Because if you do not involve into that, I go somewhere and I want to buy your things, and you said, I said, can I pay by card? Can I pay by GrabPay? And you said, no, then I have to leave because I didn't take money. So it's like everybody have to go into that. Will you follow? If you do not follow, you cannot survive. So that is an aggressive thing about the digital transformation. And so, then, for example, like more and more restaurants in Singapore, we use a QR code to order, right? And will you follow? For those shops, they use this QR code to order. They can save one waiter. So the advantage is one person salary advantage. Will you follow? Yeah, and if still the restaurants, we think about the central kitchen, right? For those restaurants, they have the central kitchen. Based on the data, what food people order most, what things nobody want, they can prepare that. They can save a lot of money, right? The morning time, I do not involve this vegetable, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
Those things, it's a advantage will you follow, especially the COVID-19? Everybody is difficult to survive. So you have to change. I think that is a digital transformation, which is not only aggressive, but very rude. We have to follow that. Yeah.
Agree. Thanks a lot, Alia. That actually leads me to ask Andy, will you follow? When you are running a multinational company, right? When you're transforming your business in the space of health and wealth, love to hear your views as well.
Yes, definitely. Like Alia said, we definitely have to follow. There's no choice, and I totally echo what Alia has said about the digital transformation. People say that data is the new oil and AI is the new electricity. So data and AI is very important behind digital transformation. And let me explain. Because once you're digital, you only interact with your customers digitally, and AI and data is the only way for business to understand the customers and to gain insights on their needs. So I think for a lot of businesses, if it's not face-to-face, if it's on digital platform, the first step is really to be able to collect data about your customers. And this could be through apps or social media. And once you do have data, you need AI and machine learning to gain insights about your customers. And through this process, you're able to predict who your customers are, what they're interested in, whether they're married, have children, their age range, life stages, their relatives and friends, etc. So all these data points are very important because they allow us to use AI to personalize the customer journey and streamline the customer experience to be frictionless and fast. The ability to personalize and quickly respond is super important in digital age. People have lost the patience in digital age for some reason. If something's 10 seconds, then they give up. Just give you an example for Prudential. You're asking about Prudential. For Prudential, 5 years ago, we started on our digital transformation journey, and we transform ourselves from a traditional insurer to a partner in helping customers stay healthier and wealthier through a digital ecosystem platform that we built. Traditional insurers do not have a lot of data on customer behavior, surprisingly, and we do have plenty of data, but on policies and claims, but those are transactional. So what we really need are active and dynamic customer data streams to truly understand customers' changing interests, behaviors, health and financial goals, demographics, life stage changes as well. So we create our own digital ecosystem platform, which we call Post by Prudential. It's really an all-in-one AI app. So it has AI health, AI fitness, wellness, dieting, AI doctor, a chatbot for symptom checking, as well as a robo-advisor. It has also virtual teleconsultation, where you could talk to a human doctor or our financial consultants or agents. Now, because of the pandemic, the app has been quite popular, to be frank. It's been downloaded over 30 million times in the past year and a half in over 17 countries and is available in 11 languages. So more and more, Prudential, we see ourselves as a technology company. Not so much that technology is cool, which it is, but digital technology and AI machine learning is the best, if not only way to reach out and understand and help your customers in the digital age, with digital transformation. So I believe many other companies and businesses probably feel the same.
Awesome. Wow, Andy and Alia, thank you so much. This is great insights into the various kind of businesses, from a unicorn to SMEs to multinational enterprises. Now, James has a tough word, right? So, talk a little bit around being a think tank in AI. How some of this transformation that companies has experienced be able to help a company to catch up, other companies that has not come on board to catch up. What's your view when it comes to that, James?
Okay, thank you. So basically, I think you can look at this problem from two perspectives. One is from the user or the company perspective. So the other one is actually from how do you innovate from the science and the startup perspective, right? So from the big company and the end user, right? In fact, as people should actually know, we have been using AI since the day Google was started. Google is the most famous AI company that actually sits around for all the data on the website since they were formed in 1999, right? And we have been using it at our fingertip every day. You cannot live without it, right? As an example. So if you as a consumer must use Google for your digital lifestyle, why not as a company, right? Basically, now those companies who provide yellow pages are all gone, right? Even the Yahoo who used to be a catalog are all gone because AI is disrupting their business, right? So from a business perspective, I think Andy in a big company, who is transforming from insurance into a technology company, Alia, you're on the education tech, right? So you are actually embracing the technology to solve many of the problem. Right? Now, of course, how do you take a more pragmatic approach is going to be important. So as a think tank, right, we also not think about the trend. We also think about how to come up with pragmatic way to help the business adopt. Because not everybody have the capability of a Google that can acquire DeepMind, with the kind of capability, or even Prudential, right? They have all the financial muscle, right? So I think there is one way by which businesses need to come with a pragmatic approach, where I think there are a lot of tools out there, like a lot of cloud computing with AI tools out there. You should know how to leverage that. Don't just follow the hype, also come up with methodology where you can test out some of the tool, the API, use it on some specific problem fitting into your domain expertise, right? For example. Then on the other hand, I mentioned the other side, right? Then there's also the startup side or the research side. There are a lot of things being commercialized and translated in the market. So a lot of big corporations are no longer just building everything themselves. Used to be a big company would just build things, customize everything. Then there's a transformation in the 80s and 90s to buy a commercial off-the-shelf product. Next transformation in innovation is that big company work with startup, and they work using some sort of an innovation methodology. And I think if you work with all the different university or some of the corporate innovation, it's happening. So these are all the pragmatic way to make things happen in the shortest time, while having a balanced approach in terms of risk. Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. James, I will catch you on the risk part, but I'd like to usher into this future because James has brought us through how AI is trending and how we should use a very pragmatic approach, right, towards receiving this trend. So maybe to Alia, right, on this part into the future, as you are working on the education technology parts, love to hear from you some of the trendings in the industry and also some of the risk that you might see.
In the educational area?
Yes, in the educational area for AI. How is it trending into the near future?
Okay, so far we see a lot of the educational companies, the big educational companies, they begin to use the AI, but most of those companies, they still in the digital area, how to make it digitalized, right? But it's very important. It's it is important because we have to view the data first. Right, we have to collect data that is first step. Like we know the whole processes. So everything in the digitalized processes, that would be a good thing. That is the first step. But still have a huge room for us to go into the real education. In my perspective, what is a real education? That is previous Kongzi in China. They said 有教无类, 因材施教. That is a personalized learning, right? Adaptive learning.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, but in our schools, still we cannot give such a kind of way to the students because a lot of constraints. Yeah, so from the digitalization, that is the first step. And next is how can we go to the real personalized learning? How can we put more natural human-computer interactive into this area? I think so far we didn't find the very good or very scalable way yet. So so this is a thing we need to think about it. And for example, in China, now the digital transformation, what we want to do, what we are doing in the industry is we try to do the dual teaching system, which means we use the digitalization, we put the very good teacher resource as a key teacher, right? And the key teacher around the world, we find the best and we record it. We use a digital platform to let the students in a rural area can even see such a kind of teaching. But the teaching is not the most important thing. Like we said, teaching is one way, the other is a practice. Right? The practicing how to achieve that. The teacher cannot see your practice. Then that is the other part. The facilitator. The facilitator in the classroom, they can facilitate the students, and based on the students' capability, based on students' reaction, gives the corresponding support. Those support, now that no need to be the expert, but you just empower the students, give their encouragement. Then based on those two teachers, right, the expert far away, but the best around the world, and the facilitator just near you and give you strength. That is a very good approach to reduce or to solve the problem of the teaching resource problem. Yeah, these are the example. Another example, for example, for our adult learning, right? In our adult learning place, how can we achieve the digitalization? A lot of companies recently, there is a trend that even the subjective area, for example, career consultancy or the study abroad consultancy, previously we think it have to be the face-to-face communication. It had to be through the conversation, but some system, they force you to type, right? Because we are adult, we know how to type. And why we have to type. Face-to-face education, face-to-face communication is quite effective. Why we do not use that? Because we want to track the data. Once we have those data, we can specify to each progress, right? And when we have such progress, we can make it scalable ultimately. Yeah, so
awesome.
Yeah, so based on this, even the very subjective area, we can collect the data, we can digitalize, and we can scalable. Yeah, so these are the trends so far.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot, Alia. You know, sharing about the education trend and how you actually encourage people to adopt, right? And also closing up some of the gaps that you identify. And that brings me to Andy, right? Who actually is also an educator in the university, as well as his business deals with people to people, face to face. Well, what are your views then, Andy, in terms of closing this gap and adoption as well? Love to hear from you.
Yes. So I totally agree with Alia on applications of AI and data in education. So previously, before Prudential, I was a professor in university, but also was a CIO for our university. And we adopt a virtual platform for training, many years ago. So in hindsight, we're very fortunate to be quite advanced and prepared for the pandemic. So we were able to switch over from physical training to virtual training within 1 or 2 weeks. But what I would like to share is a bit about the question that you asked about the future, and I'd like to share some challenges. I think there's opportunities, of course. Alia mentioned some of the opportunities, but I wanted to mention some of the challenges as well, because AI will only get faster and smarter. So I think the real challenge looking in the future is how can we control and manage AI, and to make sure that it's making the right decisions and behaving properly. That's why we hear more and more about the importance of AI governance, AI ethics, etc. There are many challenges and risks. I think first and foremost is how do we avoid AI biases? We collect a lot of data and we analyze them, but AI bias is a real thing. For example, a few years ago, Amazon actually stopped using their AI-based recruitment system because they found that it was biased against women. Supposedly, the AI algorithm gave lower scores whenever see the word woman in the resume. That's amazing. Another example is AI algorithm called Compass, I believe, which is widely used in the US criminal justice system. It consistently recommended longer jail terms for Black defendants compared with white counterparts. So I think AI bias is the first challenge. And besides AI bias, we have challenge of AI being a black box, especially if you use deep learning algorithms. So to tell you a story, 2 years ago, there was the Apple Card incident. I don't know if you remember. The AI credit scoring algorithm used by Apple Card, so it's a credit card issued by Apple on your iPhone. The AI credit scoring algorithm was accused of gender bias, giving female lower credit than men with similar financial backgrounds. However, there is a plot twist, because just a few months ago, the US courts found that the Apple AI model and algorithms did not discriminate based on sex, but made decisions properly based on factors like credit histories and unpaid debt. What really happened was that back then, 2 years ago, when the story went viral, no one from Apple was able to describe how the AI algorithm worked, let alone justify its outputs. So this black box, in fact, is really an issue that we need to address. The other issue or risk, which is very hard to solve, is currently we're still living in a world with narrow AI. So AI that is only good in a very narrow field of expertise. The outside its field of expertise, it behaves unpredictably, and it's very dangerous. So what we need is to move towards general AI, or at least have AI to be able to degrade gracefully outside its field of expertise, but that capability is still far away. So looking at Prudential, one of the first things we did at Prudential is to establish a set of AI governance principles and guidelines, and have it widely publicized throughout the company. And then on the issue of AI bias, what we did is that we were a bit fortunate because we operate out of many countries and have access to data on people from different cultures and different backgrounds. So our data set is a bit rich. We also, nevertheless, we also supplement our data set with public domain data sets to further enrich our data for machine learning. And I think one of the key thing is that it's never ending game. We need to constantly monitor and improve. And so that's why having some form of feedback loop is important to learn and reduce AI biases, whenever needed. And of course, there's also other tools that's available now to help you analyze your model to see if there's a bias through various sensitivity analysis and so forth. So I think AI bias is an important issue, the black box and narrow AI as well.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Andy. You kindly usher into these elements of AI governance and AI risk. I just have one question probably to give to James. Just on trustworthy AI, how can then we do to manage this risk in terms of AI trustworthiness?
Okay. Interesting question, because one of the reasons we set up the AIII think tank is to think about the future of AI, learning from the past. So I think a company will trust AI if it deliver on things consistently with certainty, also fulfilling our so-called ethical and governance framework, right? So first of all, I think to build trustworthy AI, number one, we need to solve I call it the industrialization of AI. I think like what Andy and maybe Dr. Alia has gone through, to produce AI model, right now there are a lot of uncertainties, the black box and all this, and then it costs a lot of time and money, right? So I think we need to make it into like an industrialization where we can actually produce it with consistency. So a lot of time by using machine learning and deep learning as a black box, sometimes you do not know what you're dealing with in terms of when you can tune it to the way you want it to be, right? So I heard that from many of the startup and company that I've been working with, and people tend to underestimate the cost. They think that I have data, run the model, I'm done. Okay, so I think that is one area of, I call it commercial sustainability of AI. So if we don't solve the commercial part of it, regardless of how much investment and money you put in, you're not going to be able to generate the ROI that you need. So I think that's one, right? So the second thing about trustworthy AI is that it must be what I call address something related to our sustainability or impact in our society. I think Andy mentioned about gender equality. If you really think back about AI, right, before this wave. The previous wave was we are actually harvesting data from knowledge of human in the expert system and the logic-based system. We are harvesting from human was mining all the data and put into our knowledge, and therefore we write it down, thereby it become expert system, right? So that was the first wave that we've gone through. Today, we are harvesting or collecting lots of data from the nature or from all the human activities. And now we are running against it. But as you know, right, nature might be fair, and sometimes nature also can be biased as well, right? Also, correct. Human activity are also biased because our activity are actually constrained by a lot of policies, regulation, law, biases in the society and norms that actually allow all those data to be collected. Now, of course, before the internet, we don't collect much data. Now we're collecting all the same data, but now if we are really running AI and learn from the same current set of data from human activities, and also from nature data, we might not be doing something that meet our humanity needs, right? That's why the entire governance, risk management are necessary, right? So I do see for this area, right, there's another area of innovation, which is linked to what Andy is working on. I think there will be an insurance business set up to create it to tackle the AI problem. So insurance for the AI, which is the entire risk tag for AI itself. Now, I do agree, Andy, that we are all doing narrow AI today, right? But we don't want to wait till the day, just like the climate change, that it become more strong AI, then we deal with it by the time the machine is already taken over us. So I think it's important discipline to think forward to do so, right? And last but not least, I think there's a long topic, it's like where we're going to be going in terms of the science part of it. AI has gone through different technology for the last 70 years. So for businesses, you need to be aware, but you don't have to worry about it. I think organizations like A-Star, NUS, NTU, or SUTD are all working on it, and all the researchers, right? That's where we have another forum to discuss where we can share the audience where the AI technology are heading. So that's what we might answer.
Thanks a lot, James. Yeah, thanks a lot. You know, wow, it's wonderful. I really hope that this 40 minutes is 4 hours, because there's so much about AI that we are just scratching the surface. You know, right from where Andy has talked about the infrastructure of compute, right, that came about to help AI to accelerate, to some of the applications that all the panelists, including Dr. Alia, has shared, right, in this field of AI, and to what James has put into your mind, the infrastructure of trust, right, where there are components of biasness, discrimination, privacy, cybersecurity, all this in one place that we need to consider, right, in order for us to have a sustainable AI. So, you know, with that, I would like to basically open up the rest of the time to Q&A, and please feel free to let us know what are the questions you have, and the panels will be happy to answer that. Thank you.